Hey, Frog fans, welcome in here to Fiesta Bowl week from Frogs Today, presented by our friends at Higginbotham Insurance. We're streaming live right now at frogstoday.com, and we're excited about the fact that there are thousands of folks in purple here in Glendale, Arizona for the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Today, the Horned Frogs get set to take on the Michigan Wolverines here. Game one of the college football playoffs. TCU, the number 3 seed. Michigan, the number 2 seed. I'm Brian Estridge, along with Coach David Bowden, and former TCU great Marshall Newhouse alongside as well. Marshall was obviously here in 2010 when the Horned Frogs were in the Fiesta Bowl in that tough game against Boise that teed up the Horned Frogs for next year's run, the undefeated run, to the Rose Bowl title. Our broadcast today, by the way, is presented by our friends at Higginbotham Insurance, HR, and Financial Services. Thank you to our friends at Higginbotham for their support of Frogs Today all week. Hey, we want to encourage you to subscribe to frogstoday.com, to the YouTube channel, to the website. We've been on top of things all week long here at Fiesta Bowl week, and we get to break down this game now in more detail. Coming up a little bit later on, Jeremiah Donati, the athletic director, is going to join us. Chancellor Victor Boschini. We got some special guests that'll be by. But first, let's talk some football right now as TCU gets set for the Michigan Wolverines. And we do that, by the way, with our men's basketball game on the big screen here at our party. The Horned Frogs coming back on Texas Tech right now at Schollmeyer Arena. All right, dive into football right now. Marshall Newhouse, first to you. Everyone has talked about the fact that this is a big Michigan team.
Right.
TCU's got speed. Yet what folks don't realize is if you look at the two offensive lines, TCU's offensive line is actually bigger.
Yeah.
I'm not sure folks around the country realize that. They'll find out soon enough, huh?
Yeah, the talking point of TCU being small and someone else, insert blank here, being big is a talking point from 15 years ago. It just doesn't exist anymore. TCU's been recruiting size for the past decade. They're as big as anyone in the country, not to mention in skill positions, a 6'7" tight end, 6'4" receivers, 6'5" receivers. They've got size everywhere. So to me, that's just something that doesn't need to be discussed. It's not relevant. There are other relevant things that are more important to this game.
And we'll get into those a little bit later on. The other thing, just to be fair, Coach David Bowden, is TCU has speed, and that is the big difference in the game. There's no question the Frogs will be the fastest team out there, but Jim Harbaugh and Michigan have done a better job of getting speed on the field.
Well, they have, and I think if you look at the Big Ten and the Big 12, like Marshall said, it's an antiquated idea to just think that the Big 12 is all speed and the Big 10 is just big lumbering guys. I think they've recruited at an elite level now in Jim Harbaugh's time there, to be fair, so they'll have speed as well. But just like the fact that the Frogs, they're going to bring the size that traditionally, you would think of the Big Ten.
All right, let's dive into some matchups that folks are talking about. I know folks want to dive a little deeper into this. Let's talk quarterback first, all right? J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. You've got Max Duggan, the Heisman Trophy runner-up, the O'Brien Award winner, the Unitas Award winner as well. Marshall, let's start with you. You protected a guy by the name of Andy Dalton in your days here at TCU. This team loves playing for Max Duggan. How far does that carry it?
It carries you as far as you can keep him clean. Early in the game, there's going to be some opportunities that there'll be plays to be made, but you might need a little more time. Everyone's figuring each other out. These teams have literally never played before, so there's going to be an adjustment period. And so having a little bit extra getting Max on the run, rollouts, play action passes, things like that. But if there's a chance for drop back protection, giving a little bit extra time, straining a little bit more so we can see the field a little better as everyone adjusts the gameplay.
J.J. McCarthy's game is very similar to Max Duggan's. He's pretty good with his feet, probably not as good as Max, has been efficient throwing the football as well, but he hasn't been pressured. Is that a key for this TCU defense, David?
Yeah, it is. They got to get after him. I think what he does a nice job of during pressure. He retreats and he really trusts his receivers in those man situations. So a lot's going to be put on not only the rush, but that secondary for TCU to take care of business in those one-on-one matchups in order to get that pressure. I think it's going to be a really key to this game.
Everyone's talked about Michigan's run game and the fact that Donovan Edwards has stepped in, averaging 7.5 yards a carry in replacement there at running back. But there's not a lot of talk about Kendre Miller. You think about it all week long, no one's mentioned the 1,000-yard rusher who has a touchdown in every game this year. I mean, you got to give Kendre a little credit, don't you, Marshall?
Absolutely. 1,000-yard plus rusher. has scored a touchdown in every game. Was it 17 consecutive games, something like that? And he's getting healthy. He's had 3 weeks to kind of mend his wounds. I think towards the end of the season, you saw him taking a few less carries, and it was very obvious that he was harboring just the wear and tear of the season. So a healthy, fresh Kendre Miller is going to be something that's going to have to be reckoned with in this game.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Marshall, and also just a healthy, fresh, entire TCU roster, right?
Yes.
It plays into that, and also what you said about Kendre Miller, I think applies to the rest of this unit, just not getting the respect they deserve, not only nationally, you come here certainly from the Michigan contingent, but this is a group where you talk about a guy like Kendre, who's just a complete back. Not only is we see in the running game, but pass protection, stepping up, being tough, being a team-first guy, and that's really this entire roster.
You know, it's a group also that Michigan has not seen a wide receiving core like TCU is going to roll out. Quentin Johnston, a healthy Tay Barber, and then a guy that many think will be the difference in this game, Darius Davis. Not only as a wide receiver, but a returner that Michigan's never seen the likes of, Marshall.
Yeah, I would argue before his injury, Darius Davis was the most dangerous returner in the country. He has given TCU a flip field position, a threat on punt and kick return, and scored touchdowns in his own right. So that is a weapon that you can't take for granted. He was out, again, in his own right, limited the last 4 or 5 weeks with some injuries, especially in regards to catching the football. But we hope and I believe that he'll be available. His hands will be available to return kicks, be active on offense, be another deep threat, a jet sweep threat, all kinds of things. He's just a weapon. That speed just doesn't come around that often. It's legit 4.2, 4.3 speed, and it's something TCU can use to their advantage.
Coach David Bowden, you've had a chance to look at Michigan on tape. Can these wide receivers run by the DBs of Michigan?
Yeah, truthfully, I think these wide receivers can run by just about anybody. They've got some good guys there. They're overly confident on that side of things when you talk about these receivers and, hey, we'll take care of business, no problem, it's no big deal. I think they're going to be surprised when the ball rolls out today, that just how fast this team is. They've completely underestimated the team speed that TCU has. And I think that's going to be a big difference and catch them sleeping, especially early on.
You think about underestimating someone. No one is talking about TCU's defense. I take that back. They are, but they aren't showing them any respect. I mean, folks think that Michigan's going to line up and just run it over top of TCU. I get the sense there's a little chip from Joe Gillespie, the defensive coordinator, coming into this game knowing his team's not getting the respect defensively they deserve.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt there's a stylistic conundrum here. There's just not many teams that are built like Michigan that like to use multiple tight ends, that like to run the ball as just consistently as they do. And there's not that many 3-3 front teams that Michigan faces. So it's something that we just haven't seen a lot of. So for anyone to speak with a lot of confidence about what they think will happen really just hasn't been watching the season, especially this TCU defense. They've taken a while to get adjusted. It was a new scheme. There's a lot of players that were in a 4-2-5 scheme prior to this year who've had to adjust their roles, the things that they do, their strengths they've had to adjust to. And as the season's gone on, they've both adapted that later in the season, but also later in games. They're just a team that withstands the current rush, and then eventually they adapt and they adjust. And I don't think that'll be any different. We hope they start fast. They've had 3-4 weeks to prepare. There's probably going to be some stuff that we haven't seen, that Michigan hasn't seen. That's just how these games go. We call them unscouted looks. But there's no doubt that they're tough and physical enough to hold up to this Michigan offense. It's just a matter of, can we do it for 4 quarters? Can there be playmaking opportunities on defense to turn the tide of the game?
To me, the matchup to watch is that center nose tackle matchup when the Horned Frogs are on defense.
Yeah. It is. I think you look inside, everyone's talking about the Michigan offensive line. What Joe Gillespie does, though, defensively, and I think, going back to talking about have they faced off against a Michigan-type team before, I think schematically you look to a Baylor, right? Not the exact same plays, but they get, really creative in the run game, just like Baylor does, but very vanilla, pro style in the pass game. So I think that's where you look to schematically to kind of start to look at the matchup. And then when you look at it from a physical and personnel standpoint, K-State is a good matchup. Now, the last game they didn't have Johnny Hodges, and I think that really hurt them.
Yes.
You look at Shadrack Banks did an admirable job, but he's still young, figuring things out. They want him to play about 20 snaps a game, not 60-something snaps a game. And I think that'll make a big difference.
And we also talk about Johnny Hodges specifically. In the NFL, you call that the guy with the green dot. He's in the NFL, there's a microphone in the helmet the signal caller on defense, which is usually the middle linebacker. In college, it's more so he conveys the signals from the sideline to the rest of the defense. His leadership and his ability to communicate the schemes was sorely missed. We don't blame Shad Banks. That's just new to him. Johnny Hodges is a bright guy, comes from Navy. That's something that he's really, really good at, and guys were in better position. I think having him back is a big deal as far as just getting people lined up where they're supposed to be.
All right, finally here, as we break this thing down, and coming up a little bit later on, you guys are going to get into what you think the keys are for TCU. I want to talk special teams real fast. I feel like this is a real advantage for TCU. That's where the speed makes a difference. Yes, Michigan's got a really good kicker, Lou Groza Award winner, but this group for TCU overall, special team-wise, has been special, David.
Yeah, they have. You look to Mark Tomadol, the special teams coordinator. That's his sole job. He'll tell you he doesn't have to coach a position. He is dedicated and with those guys 24/7, and they really have developed and grown a lot because of that. And then you look to the head coach, Sonny Dykes, who really got his start. You know, many people don't know this, but in special teams, he was a GA at Kentucky. And so they put an emphasis on it. I think it shows you get what you emphasize. And in practice, they start practice with special teams all the time. They do it in the middle. A lot of programs, when you walk in, you just throw it at the end. It's kind of an afterthought. Well, you could see that they put a premium on special teams, and it's paid off this year time and time again.
All right, finally, Marshall, what is this group? They've left the hotel, by the way. The Horned Frogs are in transit here as we speak. What are they thinking at this point on that bus ride, Marshall, over here to this college football playoff game?
Well, most of us are from Texas, and the old adage, the hay is in the barn, is applying right now. All the preparation you put in the last 3 weeks, mostly at home. They practice some here and out in Arizona, but all that preparation is done. All that is what gets you the chance to win the game. So you show up, you want the guys just lay it out. Don't leave anything in the tank. Do your job individually and by position group, and trust that these coaches who've gotten you here to this point, helped you prepare, will have you in the right positions at the end of the game. And there will be some guys we need big plays from. That's what football is. It comes down to, especially when teams are as closely matched in big games like this, it's going to come down to big plays, guys like Quentin Johnston, Max Duggan, THT, Travius Hodges-Thomason on the back end that, hey, we might need a play. We need you to make a play. Go make a play.
Speaking of coaches, by the way, you said trust those coaches. David, the philosophy from Sonny Dykes' team this week from his staff has been bigger the game, smaller the game plan. That it's been, hey, we're going to do what we do well, dance with who brung us here, and be successful.
Yeah, I think you want it to look, sound, and feel exactly the same. I think, being in a routine is so important for players, Marshall, as you know, and so you try and create that environment where everything's just the same. We're going to warm up the same. We get off the bus the same time in pregame and try and create that and just allow them. It's really been their theme, you're right, this week, but really all year since this staff has arrived is to this genius and simplicity. And they've done that since day one of camp, and that has carried through today. And it really doesn't surprise me that they want to keep that theme going because that's what got them here.
All right, it is our Fiesta Bowl week coverage here from Frogs Today and FrogsToday.com, presented by our friends at Higginbotham Insurance, HR, and Financial Services, inspired by you. Higginbotham Insurance bringing you this live stream here today from the tailgate party, the Riff Ram tailgate here for the Horned Frog faithful as they get ready for the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. By the way, the basketball team down by 4, coming back at Schollmeyer Arena. We've got it on the big screen out here as well. We got a lot we got to get into in the next hour. Athletic Director Jeremiah Donati is going to stop by. We're going to visit with the Chancellor, the incoming head of the Fiesta Bowl, who just happens to have a TCU connection. We'll stop by as well, and we'll continue to break this game down with our experts, Marshall Newhouse and Coach David Bowden. Thanks for joining us here today. We got more coming up next. Jamie Plunkett will be carrying you the rest of the way as we continue with our Fiesta Bowl week coverage from Frogs Today, presented by Higginbotham Insurance.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best-tasting, sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPI drinks.com. Live happy, be happy, drink happy.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Welcome back into the Frogs Today pregame show presented by Higginbotham Insurance. I'm Jamie Plunkett alongside Melissa Treebwasser and Jeff Wilson, our Frogs Today staff writers. We got a very special guest up here on the stage. You might know him. He's TCU's athletic director, Jeremiah Donati. Let's hear it for JD.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with y'all. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on every pregame show this year. Jeremiah, when you think about the last year, for TCU athletics and specifically TCU football, what stands out to you as we sit here outside of State Farm Stadium about to see TCU play in the college football playoff?
Oh, geez. Well, a lot of things. Frankly, the fan support has been unbelievable. I can't thank the fans enough. Obviously, a lot of uncertainty coming in with the new coaching staff. And just the way our fans have responded, our students, we had record attendance this year, record student attendance, record viewership. Those things matter, right? And those things equal wins as we're sitting here watching the TCU basketball game. This is unbelievable. What a setup here. So that stands out. But, seeing the smiles on the players' faces, right? They're having so much fun. And whether we win the whole thing or the dream ends today, these guys have made memories of a lifetime. They've changed a lot of people's lives. They've changed their own lives. It has been the ultimate team to be around. So those are the things I'll remember. They're having a lot of fun. It's been so fun to tag alongside them. My job's the easy part in game day. They're the ones that have the tough part. But it's just been a magical season, and I got a hunch it's going to keep going.
When you look at the opportunity that TCU has on this national stage, what does playing in a game like this, being in the college football playoff, mean for the university big picture-wise?
Well, so I've said this a couple times this week. It's almost kind of like we broke through that glass ceiling, right? We've been close a few times. 2014, 2015, we had some really good teams. But, we made it through. We broke through and we earned it, right? It wasn't a thing where, you kind of backed your way into it. We earned this. Anyone would tell you that we were deserving of being in the 4. And so you think about the impact that like the Rose Bowl had on this university, right? Almost 12 years ago. This is even bigger, right? This is even bigger. And I think that we are going to see the fruits of this labor, the seeds that we're planting, so to speak, for decades. So it's a massive deal, not only for our football program and athletics, but for our university and for Fort Worth as a whole.
JD, the emphasis is always on football, it seems like, but it seems like now there's a character element involved, a makeup with the players and these guys who want to get their degrees, be complete people. How important is that, not just with the football team, but TCU intercollegiate athletics in general?
Well, at the end of the day, we're all huge football fans, and it is about the game, but they're college students, right? And it's our job as educators to make sure that we're helping to develop as students, as athletes, as people, socially. And so there's a lot that goes into that.
Buses are rolling in.
Here the buses come in. Look at those frogs right there. I love seeing that. That's awesome. That timing's serendipitous. I think that's good karma. That's a good sign. But no, it's our job to help them develop as young people. And so whether that's on the field or in the classroom or outside the classroom, we take a lot of pride in that. And you're really seeing, that's one thing that I'm really proud about this group. Last night, I'll tell you a really quick funny story. So all the donors are hanging out kind of near the lobby, and some of the players were walking around about 9 o'clock, and one of the donors said to me, "These guys got to get to bed. They got to get ready for curfew." And I said, "You don't have to worry about curfew with these guys. They know what's at stake today.
Yeah.
It's a great group to be around. They're very mature and just really excited for their opportunity here today."
Well, I think obviously Max Duggan's been in the spotlight all season, but especially this past month. Talk about the way he's represented the university and really the city of Fort Worth.
I think Sonny Dykes said it best. I think it was after the SMU game, when he got a little emotional about Max's response. And obviously we all know the story and the obstacles he's had to overcome. But the way he's handled himself, and I'm not talking just about the adversity. I saw him in the hotel yesterday. He must have signed 60 kids' autographs, right? And he wanted to make sure to get every kid's autograph. He's asking them where they're from. I mean, this kid almost brought tears to my eyes. I mean, this kid is almost too good to be true. He's represented this university in such a positive, professional manner. I mean, it was a dream to walk around New York City with him. People are walking up on the streets and going, "Go Frogs!" And when Tim Tebow and Desmond Howard,
Frogs have taken the lead.
Frogs have taken the lead. Everyone. When Desmond Howard and Tim Tebow are running up to Max Duggan to say, "Hey, can I get your picture?" That's pretty cool. But he's a wonderful young man. It's obviously going to be bittersweet to watch him to leave TCU, but he is a diehard Horned Frog, and when he's playing on Sundays, my hunch is that he's going to be flashing the Frog sign as well.
So much positive momentum around the football team, TCU as a whole. You've got the new Performance Center coming in. It's hard to get to this point. How do you keep it rolling from here?
That's the $1 million question, right? And so big stop there by the Frogs. That's kind of the vision behind the Human Performance Center, is that how can we make sure that our players are not only bigger, faster, stronger. I love this. Is great.
This is great.
Not only bigger, faster, stronger, but what are we doing about their mental health, right? What are we doing to get them back on the field? What are we doing from a recovery and a wellness aspect? This is really going to be a game changer for our student athletes, the ones that are coming, and also from a recruiting standpoint. And I'm looking at this as how can we make sure that as we go into the new Big 12, you look 5-10 years down the road, that this is not an anomaly, right? That we're coming back and we're having more of these big moments, and across the board, because that's the greatest thing about this project. It's not just football. It's centered around football. We all know football is the enterprise, but this is going to benefit every single student athlete at TCU, all 22 sports, men and women. So it's really exciting. That is the answer to the question of how do you keep this rolling, is we've got to do things like that and continue to make those investments.
When you think about it, too, I mean, Jeremiah, we're sitting here at the TCU Alumni Association tailgate in Glendale, Arizona, with thousands of people wearing purple, all watching TCU men's basketball play on a big screen. They just took a lead with less than 3 minutes left in this game. When you think about the trickle-down effect, not just of the facility upgrades and all that kind of stuff, but with the football team's performance, how does that trickle down to men's basketball, women's basketball, equestrian, swimming and diving in a positive way? Is it a rising tide raises all boats?
Rising tide raises all boats. So you just took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, it's amazing. We have high standards at TCU. We set the bar very high, and none higher than what we're seeing here right now. But we've got a lot of national championship caliber programs. I mean, there was a tweet we put out the other day of all of our coaches of the year, coaches have won coaches of the year. I mean, holy smokes! I mean, we got it rolling right now, and it's we've made a lot of investments. We have high expectations, and not just in athletics, across the board at TCU. And so our coaches and our players feel that. And so when you're coming to TCU and you're putting on the purple and white, that there's a lot expected of you. And so it has trickled across the board. What's been so fun for me to see is how the student athletes support each other, right? You see football team coming to women's basketball games, right? And you see the basketball team coming to volleyball games when they can. Just really cool stuff. I just saw David Roditi and Eric Bell are here, right? I just spent some time with them. So, one of them drove. so it's the Horned Frog Pride's a real thing. It's a special time to be here, but it's just really cool to see it permeate across all of our sports and see them really jump up and support each other.
Well, Jeremiah, we appreciate you taking the time here today at the Frogs Today pregame show presented by Higginbotham Insurance. Jeremiah, do you have anything left to say to these wonderful folks here today?
See you next week in LA.
Woo!
That's
Go
TCU
Frogs.
Athletic Director Jeremiah Donati. We are going to take a quick break here on the Frogs Today pregame show presented by Higginbotham Insurance. We'll be right back with more breakdown of TCU versus Michigan in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl when we come back.
Thanks, Mike.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Insurance. We're very thankful for Higginbotham over here at Frogs Today. They've sponsored all of our content this week. You can read it over at frogstoday.com or watch it on the Frogs Today YouTube channel. Higginbotham Insurance, HR, and financial services inspired by you. Jamie Plunkett back up here on stage alongside Melissa Triebwasser and a very special guest, the incoming chair of the Fiesta Bowl board, Judy Burness, joins us here on stage today. Judy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting to be here. So the secret that not everybody knows is that I'm also the Senior Associate Dean for the TCU School of Medicine. Woo-hoo!
What a wonderful connection. So Judy, as you sit on the board currently and you're the incoming chair, what's the process for preparing for a game like this, seeing a TCU school that you have a connection with potentially getting in and then eventually getting in?
Well, first of all, it is the most exciting thing I could ever imagine that I get to combine the Fiesta Bowl and TCU in this semifinal. It is the most exciting thing. But preparing for this game and welcoming TCU and all of our fans and painting purple Phoenix, and it's so exciting. But preparing for this game is a ton of work. But it is so great to have a semifinal here, to have TCU here, and we know how great that is. So we've coaches have looked at the films; they know how the game's going to go, and I am very unbiased. But go Frogs!
Judy, the hospitality here, everything that the Fiesta Bowl does is first rate. Tell us a little bit about what you think of the TCU fans that have traveled in and how they've returned the favor.
I could not be happier and prouder and so excited. Everyone on the board and all of our volunteers and committee members have told us how amazing all the TCU players, coaches, staff, fans, and how excited they are all to be here and how nice and wonderful and so amazing. So we know that there's another school. They have probably not been as amazing, but we love that TCU has represented so incredibly well. And I can tell you we have built another huge fan base out here in Phoenix for TCU.
The opportunity for programs to play in big bowls like the Fiesta Bowl, TCU is making their second appearance, play in the college football playoffs. From the administrative side, what do you see up next for these programs when they get the national stage like this?
Well, we know that it increases applications tremendously, right? The rest of the country looks at our school and starts to pay attention. Already right now for our school medicine, we only have 60 spots. We get about 9,000 applications.
Wow.
I bet that probably almost doubles after all of the exposure
Wow.
we get. So it means a lot, not only from the sports side, but from all of academics at TCU.
So when you're working with a school of medicine that is still up and coming and developing, what's the vision that you're going to cast as dean of the School of Medicine? What's your biggest kind of plan for the next 3 or 4 years of the university?
I just love that you asked that question. So we trademarked a term. We are building empathetic scholars. So we're going to have the most prepared physicians who are also going to be amazing communicators and be empathetic and compassionate and really be the kind of physicians that you want to see.
I absolutely love that. So getting back to the Fiesta Bowl, though, we do have a very
there's a
important
game today?
There's a very important game happening today. Judy, when you see kind of the fruits of your labor coming to fruition today, the teams kick off, they take the field. What do you think is going to be going through your mind emotionally?
I'm very nervous. I'm very excited. I know we're a second half team, so I am not going to stress out until maybe the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And then I might stress, but until then, I am just going to enjoy the game and watch these amazing Frogs and this amazing team who has had this incredible season and done what nobody thought we could do, right?
Give us one key to a TCU win this afternoon.
Oh, I got one that maybe you might not all know. Michigan has not played one game on real grass this year.
Whoa!
That's a good line.
That is a
good
fun fact.
stat. Good nugget.
Yes.
Did not realize that. TCU, in fact, plays most of their games on real grass. Shout out to the TCU grounds crew who takes such good care of all of the turf TCU student athletes play on. Judy, thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is an incredibly busy day for you to come and join us. Let's all hear it for Judy Burness.
Thank you all.
We are going to take another quick break for the maybe last 33.6 seconds of this men's basketball game here at the Frogs Today pregame show presented by Higginbotham Insurance. We will be back. We'll have Marshall Newhouse and David Bowden back on stage to continue breaking down TCU versus Michigan right after this.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com. Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.
Welcome back into the Frogs Today pregame show. They got exactly 0 seconds of basketball played while we took our break. The Horned Frogs are still winning 64-61 in the final minute of that game against Texas Tech over at Schollmeyer Arena back in Fort Worth. Shout out to all the Frog fans who are currently in Fort Worth or tuning in from wherever you are, watching on frogstoday.com and at Frogs Today on YouTube. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Coach David Bowden, former TCU Horned Frog Marshall Newhouse, and another former TCU Horned Frog, Jake Kirkpatrick, now joins us up here on the stage. Jake, thanks for taking a moment out of your day to come hang out and talk.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
All right, Jake, so I got to ask, you've played at TCU. You understand this program incredibly well. What are you looking forward to seeing from the Frogs today when they take the field?
I'm looking forward to the country seeing the kind of football that TCU plays, which is disciplined, hard-nosed, tough, physical, fast football, and it's going to be awesome to watch.
That's a brand of TCU football that has transcended coaching changes, hasn't it? You obviously you played for Coach Gary Patterson. You guys both did, learned a lot from GP and his staff. But Jake, what have you seen from Coach Sonny Dykes and the new staff this season that's impressed you the most?
I think the biggest thing I've seen is they're accountable to each other. I think the leadership is there, but also they're just tough, man. They're never out of the fight, which is awesome. A little distracted here, Jamie.
Look, we all love TCU men's basketball.
This is not good television or radio, but we'll do it.
This is good. Everything's fine. Bud? Do you want to give us a play-by-play of the basketball game? I don't want to give you play-by-play. I think there's a copyright issue there.
Let's focus there. Let's focus
28.2 seconds. Looks like Damian Ball's in.
All y'all watching at home who don't have the game on, TCU's got the ball.
Passes it back.
25 seconds left, up by 3.
Damian Ball is fouled. He'll be shooting free throws with 24 seconds left.
No, go ahead.
All right, Jake. So, you think about your time as an offensive lineman, Marshall's time as an offensive lineman. When you look at a guy like Steve Avila, left guard this year, moved from center last year, his versatility, he's consensus All-American. What stands out to you about Steve's gameplay that makes him an elite left guard?
Honestly, just how physical he is. I mean, that's such a physical position. Being in the trenches there and being a leader, I think the rest of the team can thrive off that energy and that toughness. And we've seen it all year with all the comebacks they've had.
Awesome. Jake, I know you don't like being on the stage. We're going to let you go here. But Bowden and Marshall, you stick around. We're going to ask you guys a couple more questions about key matchups and players to watch. Jake, thank you so much for being on stage, man.
Thank you so much.
Good man, good man.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yep. I'm going to scoot over. You guys switch mics. Or not.
All right, we're going to scoot over and get resituated here. Coach Marshall, you are our football expert, so I've got to ask you, when you think about this football game today, TCU matching up against Michigan, give me one player on the offensive side of the ball for TCU that needs to have a good game for the Frogs to win.
I'm going to put the emphasis at the end of the day just on Max Duggan. It's been front of mind all season. He went through, training camp, got beat out, lost his job, came in on injury, and has just been on an upward trajectory all year. He's shown everyone what he's made of. He's shown everyone what this program is made of. And at the end of the day, TCU goes as he goes, I believe. When he's on, when he's dialed in, he's a consistent guy. He's cold-blooded. He's just you rarely see him lose his composure on the sideline. And then there's the moments in the Big 12 championship, even in a loss, where you're like, he's literally spilling his guts out on the field. The team rallies around that. They react when he's making plays. We talked about it. When there's blood running down his elbow, that gives everybody a little extra juice. So Max Duggan is going to have to bring the passion and energy, but he's just going to have to execute. Yeah. There's going to be open. Coach Riley's going to get guys open. There are going to be open lanes to run in. There are going to be decisions you have to make in zone read and easy checkdowns. Max has to continue to make the smart play. And then at the end of the day, we talked about in the earlier segment, when there's a play to be made, he's got to make the play. Speaking of making plays, throwing it down
at the buzzer. Beat Texas 67-61 in Schollmeyer Arena. The Frogs move.
A good start to the day.
12-1 on the season, 1-0 in Big 12 play. What a win as the Horned Frogs kick off conference play today back in Fort Worth.
Bowden, your player on offense for TCU football today.
Well, I'll tell you what, I always like Marshall Newhouse's takes. It usually doesn't get that kind of reaction, though, but I think it deserved it. That was great for you guys to cheer on Marshall like that. But, no, great win for the Frogs there. Offensively for me, Jamie, going back to the football side of things, after that big TCU win in basketball, I look at Kendre Miller, and a lot has been made of the receivers for TCU and them getting healthy and how important that is, and I agree. And then everyone has talked about the Michigan side and their running backs and their history of running backs, and of course, with the injury this year and Donovan stepping in. But really for me, Kendre Miller is a guy that has to just, he's back to he's had some rest. And so, he's carried the load this year. It's been a lot. Never complained. Just does his job play after play. But he's a guy that really, once TCU gets a lead, they can hold on to it in that run game. Because you look at Michigan, and they are, in the second half, they are plus 206 206 points in the second half. However, they haven't played in a lot of close games, right? So it's a little bit misleading. And I think when you look at a guy like Kendre Miller, if they can get a lead early and kind of ride him the second half, he's a guy that can really make a difference for this offense.
You look at a game like Michigan played against Illinois with another elite running back in Chase Brown, who obviously declared for the 23 NFL draft just a few weeks ago. Brown had 141 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. That's a significant portion of the rushing yards and touchdowns that Michigan has allowed all season, but it showed that there is a way to get good running lanes against this Michigan defense, and I totally agree, Coach. I think if Kendre can help TCU control the pace of this game, keep the ball in possession, that they do have a really good chance of winning. For me, I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston. Marshall, you've said all year on the pregame show that in big moments, you got to let the dogs eat. You got to let your big guys play. And there is nobody bigger out there than Quentin Johnston, 6'4", 220 pounds, runs a 4.4 40. And he's going to be matched up against some incredible cornerbacks today. A true freshman 5-star kid who's going to be in the NFL, a senior who's going to be in the he's a top 40
Listen,
draft
they're going to double cover him. They're either going to have a safety over top at all times. They're going to have guys bracketing him.
Yep.
They're going to do everything they can to keep him out of the game. And it's going to come down to him, but also how TCU schemes him open. Listen, a fifth of his receptions come on screens. He's got 8.5 yards after catch on screens. He can run mid-level routes. He can run deep routes.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to put him in motion. They're going to have to get him out of these very obvious double coverage situations because they're not going to let him beat them. I imagine Jim Harbaugh's like, that's the guy. So the onus is going to come on him and Garrett Riley to get him open. It's also going to come on Savion. It's going to come on Tay. It's going to come on Darius to also get open and make plays when they're there to be made.
Well, you make a really good point about pre-snap motion there, because I think if there is a weakness to this Michigan defense, it is their linebackers. If you can run some of that jet sweep motion pre-snap, get their eyes moving, keep them off the ball a little bit, that opens up running lanes for Kendre Miller and Amari DiMercado, and it's going to get some guys open down the field as well, Coach.
Yeah, there's no question. And you look back to, you talk about double coverage. I want to get back to that for a second with Quentin Johnston. The thing is, everyone kind of casually just says that as if, okay, well, it's going to be tough to shut him down. And that may be true, honestly. But okay, the thing is, all these guys that you just mentioned, you can't double cover them all, right?
Nope,
and so if you do
cannot.
roll coverages, now all of a sudden you've got one-on-ones on the other side. And you mentioned Savion. He's got to get back to stepping up, and he will today. Darius Davis and what you can do in terms of creatively, in terms of matchups for him, Tay Barber. And the list of the Frog weapons is just endless. And I think, the key for all of this stuff is I go back to the fact that they're healthy, right? They were running on fumes in that Big 12 championship game. This is exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of having some rest. And now it's a group that, when you look at the top line of this roster, is as good, if not better, than anybody in the country. So when you start comparing, some of the depth and those things, that's where it levels out just a little bit. But the Frogs' top end, it to me, is the better roster. That's eye-opening to people, and that's not Frog bias. That's just the way it is. It's just they're better. And so I think people shouldn't be surprised when they do some damage today, that offensive group.
You must have read Jacob Saylor's article on frogstoday.com yesterday. He did a talent breakdown of TCU versus Michigan based on recruiting rankings over the last few years. It is a very balanced roster for both teams. Very impressive work by Jacob there over at frogstoday.com. Marshall, when you think about a TCU offense that has had 3.5 weeks now to prepare for this Michigan defense, help me get into Garrett Riley's head a little bit. Are you creating new schemes? Are you drawing up new plays? Or are you really just getting back to the basics and helping these guys reset a little bit?
There's a concept in football called self-scout. So they had a couple weeks to really look back at the season as a whole and be like, all right, what are the things that we left on the table? What are the things that, we maybe should just move on from, at least in the short term? And what are some things, as we watch this film on Michigan, that we could take advantage of? But you mentioned Sonny earlier, Brian did earlier, about the bigger the game, the simpler the concept. I do believe they're going to have a very distilled playbook, but there are going to be some things that are just there to take advantage of matchups. The football, at the end of the day, is a matchup game, and TCU's going to have some things. So Garrett Riley, I imagine, is going back to the drawing board, a few things to get our playmakers open, a few things to scheme up some open holes in the run game. And I imagine a couple, we call them trick plays, gadget plays, things to take advantage of. Are they just fast flow? Do you run a reverse? Are they biting on play action? Do you throw a flea flicker? Stuff like that comes into play when you have this much time to prepare. So there are some things from the old they'll take, some things they threw out, and some things that are brand new for Michigan specifically.
Coach, on the other side of the ball, put me inside Joe Gillespie's head. This is a 3-3-5 defense that everybody nationally is starting to talk about as being weak against the run. And we know, based on what we've seen from TCU this year, that that's not necessarily the case. Why is that so?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it looks like you have at the onset. It looks like you have bubbles in the defense all over. Everybody wants to attack those bubbles, meaning guys off the line of scrimmage. I talked to Coach Gillespie about, hey, why do you play those guys off the ball, those outside linebackers off the ball versus tight end sets? Why are they playing off rather than a lot of teams? Those fronts, they'll put them on the line of scrimmage, play them over the tight end. And he said, look, one, they're not. It's not their natural position to be on the line of scrimmage. They don't feel as comfortable there. And being a little bit undersized and more athletic at that spot, we like to give them a running start. So, it's just more natural for them. It's almost as if it's, for them, it's a blitz path, and they get a running start. And we've seen the results of that. And so all of a sudden it looks like you have some things opening up in the run game pre-snap. And then all of a sudden when the ball is snapped, it's a different story. You look at guys like D. Winters, who, has really been selfless, a guy that's normally has played off the ball, super athletic. He's gone down on the line of scrimmage, made a bunch of plays behind the line of scrimmage. And people can talk about the Big Ten all they want, but he has done that versus big, lumbering, physical teams and has gone toe-to-toe and won a bunch of those matchups. So to me, I think it's a little bit deceiving when you look at that defense and say, oh, yeah, sure, you can run the ball. They're all playing off the ball in this 3-3 stack. But it's a very sound 3-3 stack. It's not somebody that, just doesn't gap out all the time. They are sound in their approach. And Joe Gillespie's done a really nice job with this defense, making sure they can take care of business in the run game.
Really excited to see what both of those assistant coaches have cooked up for Michigan when the TCU Horned Frogs match up with the Wolverines later today, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. We're going to take another quick break here on the Frogs Today pregame show presented by Higginbotham Insurance. When we come back, you're going to get the staff's final predictions for today's Fiesta Bowl game.
Oh, is that what it is?
Welcome back into the Frogs Today Fiesta Bowl pregame show presented by Higginbotham Insurance. Higginbotham Insurance, HR, and Financial Services, inspired by you. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Melissa Treebwasser, Coach David Bowden, and Marshall Newhouse live at the TCU Alumni Tailgate and on frogstoday.com and the Frogs Today YouTube channel.
Oh.
Is there a doctor?
Is there a doctor around?
There's got to be medical. Yeah.
We've got a
Thank you,
couple
sir.
folks coming. Thank you.
All right, fair enough.
Pardon us for that interruption.
Yeah, there we go.
Very important. Very important.
Let's go.
All right, as we reset here, Frogs Today pregame show. Jamie Plunkett alongside Melissa Treebwasser, Coach David Bowden, and Marshall Newhouse. Guys, we know that TCU and Michigan are going to kick off in a couple of hours now. That's about all we know about how this game's going to go at this point. But I want to hear from each of you. your final thoughts on today's game, on TCU's journey here, and a score prediction. Melissa, let's start with you.
I mean, listen, I think the story of this season has been told so often and so well by so many people. But until that ball kicks off here at 2 o'clock, it's going to be hard to fully grasp just the largesse of this moment. And for so many TCU fans that have been a part of this journey for so many years and so many decades, the opportunity to see the Horned Frogs kind of culminate in an appearance in the college football playoff, it's almost overwhelming, I think, at this point. But if there's one thing we've learned about this team under Sonny Dykes, under the leadership of Max Duggan and Quentin Johnson and D. Winters and all of these guys, it's that we know this team will be ready. They will be enthused but not overwhelmed. The moment won't be too big for them. And no matter what the score is at any point in this game, you're always going to believe the Frogs have a shot. Michigan is probably the best opponent TCU has seen this season. It's the winningest program in college football history, as we've been told so many times. And they're favored for a reason. But at the same time, TCU didn't get here because they didn't deserve to be here. And I think that this team believes that they belong on this stage, even if most of the rest of the country doesn't. And so I think we're going to get the performance of a lifetime from TCU's Heisman runner-up. We're going to get the performance of a lifetime from their potential first-round wide receiver. And that defense is going to be the one that makes the difference. Defense and special teams has a chance to make up for where TCU lacks in regards to matchups. I'm going to pick the Horned Frogs 35-31 to pull off the first college football upset since 2014, beat Michigan, head to the national championship games next Monday.
Absolutely love it. Coach.
For me, the story is of this team, when you're around this group of guys in the world of NIL, which is important, the world of transfer portal, in the world of the arms race that is facilities, the glitz, the glamour, all of that stuff, the me-first culture that we live in, this is a group, to a man, that is has a team-first mentality. And it's a rarity, unfortunately, in today's world. But the Frogs are showing that, that still exists, right? Where, you put the team first, whether it's the quarterback coming in, where it really means something to him, and the emotion that you see in your leader, in your signal caller, all the way down to the last man on the roster. This is a group that puts the team first in sort of an old school mentality. Whether, as soon as you interview or talk to one of these players or coaches, the first thing they do is point to somebody else and give credit. And I think, to me, that's the difference, where you have a bunch of maybe some me players on the other side. I don't know them well enough, but I know what you have in TCU, and that's a group that puts, it's the whole we before me mentality. And so that's the storyline for me. I think that's going to play out to a victory. Jamie, it's going to be a close one, but I think the Frogs do pull it off. I'm going 37-34 Horned Frogs.
I'm sensing a trend. Marshall, you going to keep it rolling?
I think so. I think I might, but we look around and where we are right now. It's just something that I don't believe any Frog fans, any Frog players ever take for granted. You look at where, after turnover, the first turnover in 2 decades to start the season, unranked to start the season, picked to finish 7th in the Big 12 to now in the college football playoff. That stuff just doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen without a culture. And I think the most important part of that culture, this new culture, is consistency. I think no matter the opponent, TCU has just found a way to just do what they do well, take care of themselves first. And from the AD that we talk to every week, to the head coach and all the staff that are here, down to the players, they're just taking care of their business. And it's so workmanlike that it oftentimes comes off as boring, unless the TCU media team making all these hype videos after the wins that are a little out of space. But this team is consistent, and they know who they are. They're not trying to be anyone else. And as we keep reminding everyone, they know why they're here. They deserve to be here. And at the end of the day, going from a player standpoint, you just want an opportunity. You just want to swing. You want an at-bat to lay it out there and see what happens. And so they prepared. They've gotten healthy. The scheme is the scheme. The other team is the other team. But what are you going to do on a man-to-man basis to help affect the outcome of the win? I believe TCU, like you said, to a man, being unselfish, just has that in them. They have this ability to win. So many players that are come from these small towns around Texas that come from winning programs. They just know how to win. They've been playing ball, on the aggregate since they were 8, 19 years old. That's just what we do in Texas. It's a very consistent thing. And so I think this is not going to be too big of a stage for them. they stay true to who they are, and I'm excited to watch them play. And again, you roll the ball out there and see what happens. And we've got the talent to do it. We've got the scheme and the confidence to do it. I have TCU winning. It's going to be a close game. Again, the odds are the odds, but I have TCU 31, Michigan 30. It's going to be a tight game. There's going to be some swings. There's going to be some moments where your stomach's going to twist up in knots, but plow through. As a fan, plow through. You'll be all right. Sip another beer. You'll be okay. I think TCU wins 31-30.
Just remember to breathe.
Yeah,
right? Just remember to breathe.
Breathe.
I wrote in my preview yesterday, I quoted Russ Cole. I don't know if you guys remember who that is, but time is a flat circle. We're almost 12 years to the day, folks, that TCU took on another Big Ten champion in a little bowl called the Rose Bowl out in Pasadena, California. And everyone told Horned Frog fans that they weren't going to be in that game for very long because of the way that Wisconsin could run the football with Monty Ball and James White. That they could throw the ball, that they were bigger, that their defense was going to overpower TCU's little offensive line. I don't think that happened. But, you look at the parallels between that game and this one. The narrative really hasn't changed much. Marshall, you commented that it probably should be shifting at this point, but it isn't. I really do truly think that if TCU goes out and does what Sonny Dykes has asked them to do all year, which is just do your job, that the Horned Frogs can come away today victorious and heading to Los Angeles next week. I do think it's going to be a close game, like you all said as well. I do think that Michigan is going to give TCU their best shot. I also think the Frogs are going to give Michigan their best shot. And so when you look at that field at the end of the day, like you said, they're going to roll it out and play in just a few hours here, Marshall. I think the Horned Frogs do come out on top 27-24.
All right, there we go.
Folks, both here at the TCU Alumni Association tailgate and at home watching on frogstoday.com and the Frogs Today YouTube channel. For Marshall Newhouse, Coach David Bowden, Melissa Treebwasser, I'm Jamie Plunkett. For Brian Estridge as well, who's calling the game on ESPN Radio today. This is the Frogs Today pregame show. Enjoy your time here at the Verbo Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. Hope you're tuning in and cheering on the Frogs from home at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central. For everybody else that's associated with Frogs Today, our producer Jay over here, go Frogs. We'll talk to you next time.
Go Frogs.
At Higginbotham, we put people first. So we simply start by listening to you. Whether you're searching for customized insurance, HR, or financial solutions to protect your home, car, health, business, or employees, our specialists are here to serve you, the people you care about, and your success. Higginbotham. Insurance, HR, and financial services. Inspired by you.